Hello, everyone gathered here today at the Intel-Zinnov conference. It says a lot about you that you are here today. So, a lot of us here might be curious about what net zero is, or maybe we want to get involved. Maybe some of us are veterans out here in this conference and are, very, very well versed in the net zero terminology, and maybe you're actively even making decisions at various companies or institutions and heralding this massive global shift. But today, rather than sharing climate science or CO2 emission graphs, I am here to tell you a little bit about myself, my story, and tell you about how I got started and maybe what I personally am trying to do and what my organization is trying to do to have a lighter footprint on this planet. So I'm Sahar, and I'm the founder of Bare Necessities, and I'm attempting to live a zero waste lifestyle or a low waste lifestyle. Definitely not perfect, but here's a little bit about my journey. So following waste pickers, or actually waste warriors, like I like to call them, is how this all began. I noticed the conditions in which they were segregating all of our waste, the broken glass, sanitary napkins, and I knew I wanted to be part of the solution. The experiences was, of course, a cultural eye-opener for me, but it also better allowed me to understand the social justice issues associated with our waste problem. And I started Bare Necessities. I wanted to attempt to change the waste narrative in India and beyond by providing high quality products that are designed not to land up in our oceans and landfills, which means that absolutely zero packaging footprint associated with your product. Some might say we are here trying to attempt to build the lush of India, celebrating Indian ingredients. We're on track to divert 500 kilograms of plastic from the oceans and landfills by 2025. Bare Necessities is creating zero waste alternatives to conventionally toxic formulated products that are then packaged in plastic. So personal care products that we use on a daily basis. And by doing so, we're seeking to address the largest global garbage crisis of our lifetime. Through our very holistic two-pronged approach, which is zero waste products, but also our sustainability education initiative, our extensive R&D and our innovation on waterless formats of products, which results in reduction of energy, plastic waste, and carbon dioxide emissions by 80 to 90% than traditional alternatives. We're bringing innovation to an industry that actually has not seen any innovation in the past 30 odd years. Through our very, very strong employment philosophy that's extremely inclusive, our transparent sourcing, our refill program, our UNESCO-recognized sustainability school with more than 50,000 graduates and 2.5 million reached, we are raising awareness about sustainability in easy, digestible pieces of information. And also, we are trying to use it as perhaps a great way to build community. We are the future of conscious consumption, the way I see it. And we're not just one of the first few movers in the zero waste space in Asia, but I think we are trying to, again, build this vibrant community through books, innovative products, packaging, community building strategies, and more. To be honest, my dream is really to build a very scalable model of production, distribution that has extremely low environmental footprint, and then make this an open source model for other entrepreneurs to replicate in other parts of the country. I want to document all of my learnings, lessons, failures from my past, to make it very easy and accessible for others to replicate and not make the same mistakes that I made as an entrepreneur. I'm happy to report that Bare Necessities has been titled the top 5 handcrafted brands in India by Harper's Bazaar magazine. Sure, telling you all of this, right? But let me tell you why I do this. My experiences volunteering in Jamaica, Democratic Republic of Congo, Guatemala, really allowed me to expand my definition of what interculturalism and inequality actually is. It was here that I understood the power of women coming together to try and make something, create something. These experiences really inspired me to build this strong women-run manufacturing team that is still the backbone of Bare Necessities today. And the women-run manufacturing team is largely of underserved women. While studying in Los Angeles or, University of Cambridge, working at the World Health Organization, all of these experiences really, really stimulated my mind. But it was through all of my volunteer experiences that I truly educated my heart. And that's why I try and lead with compassion as much as possible. We brought in a Geneva-based leadership coach who does pro bono leadership coaching for all of us. Whether you graduate from Harvard or you have no formal education system at all. Let me tell you a little bit about Shabri. She started off in the manufacturing team. She rose to become head of the manufacturing team, slowly then got promoted to becoming assistant operations manager, and then essentially learned how to ride a bike, took a computer course on the side, bought her mama a house, all in the span of 4 years at Bare Necessities. And this is why I'm passionate about building a sustainable business with social, environmental, and economic goals that are so congruent to one another, so aligned with one another. We're here seeking to divert plastic waste from the oceans and our landfills while creating 4,000 odd stable green jobs by 2025. Shifting gears a little bit to talk about the race to zero, the topic of the day, or net zero. According to IPCC report, we all know we have a decade, maybe even less, to significantly curb carbon emissions, to avoid any catastrophe. Because of the years of delayed action, we face even more pressing mandate. We have to halve our global emissions by 2023. But the emission gap between what is needed and our current commitments is also extremely significant. Starting this year, we need to cut emissions by 7.6% every year for the next 10 years to limit warming to 1.5 degrees. I want to share a few examples of circular economy in action that have really demonstrated innovation, but that also gives me a lot of optimism and hope for the future. And hopefully it'll ignite some optimism in you as well. Honestly, we don't all have to be hippies. We all don't have to go back to being cavemen or anything like that. It's just about finding a balance between innovation, which honestly, there is a lot of amazing innovation out there, and sustainability. We need to use innovation models that have come up and marry them with sustainable development goals to really bring a future that is more sustainable. Okay, so first example that I really love is of soap bottle. So this graduate student, Joanna, for her dissertation, came up with the idea of making a bottle out of soap and essentially putting liquid shampoo in it. And once you're done using the shampoo, you can use the soap to wash your hands and it simply washes away. And thereby, you have no plastic footprint associated with your everyday personal care products. Next up is seaweed. I mean, this is just a really, really amazing example of what regenerative circular economy in action actually looks like. So the London Marathon, for example, there are anywhere from 50,000 runners to 90,000 runners who take part every year for the past few years. And the amount of waste, especially associated with the plastic water bottles, is extremely staggering. So with this innovation that they used, I think in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, are these seaweed water bubbles. You essentially just squeeze them while you're on the run, consume the water. It's completely odorless, completely tasteless, and you're able to hydrate yourself all without producing any plastic footprint or waste. I believe 9,20,000 plastic water bottles were diverted this year off the pilot. Repair economy. I think this is a phenomenal example of what community action can look like. The idea is to really reclaim public spaces. It could be an old library in your area. It could be an old public school. It could be a little cafe. And Repair Cafe is essentially like any other cafe where you can have your beverages, your drinks, your coffee, your tea, but you can also bring all of your material that needs some repair or mending. It can also be done very, very systematically and strategically. So for example, it can have themes. So this week we are repairing all of our old electronics. And the idea is to also bring in resources, maybe engineers who want to participate, students who are studying software engineer, maybe some local electricians, etc., to help repair and add value to your existing products that need some mending. Similarly, maybe one topic of the week could be mending old clothes, and they could have fashion designers, local tailors, art students, to help there be a resource for you to mend all of those clothes as well. This movement has become so successful that almost every city in the world has a chapter of Repair Cafe, including my home city of Bangalore, that's led by Purna Sarkar. Next is modular technology. I think this is really going to be the future, whether that's phones or headsets. And I mean, who doesn't like a good pair of headphones to experience whatever you might be watching? The idea is that often when we purchase technology, if something goes wrong, one small thing goes wrong, you unfortunately largely have to toss out the whole product and then buy a new one. So the idea here is that if one part needs to be fixed, the headphones can be modeled and assembled really easily, but also disassembled really easily. So you essentially just need to get that one part that needs to be fixed. And I think this is really kind of the future. There's another example called Fairphone as well that's coming up. And I think this is another really cool way in which you can integrate consumers and innovation by having subscription models. So for example, it might be a really, really expensive piece of technology that you don't want to kind of put all of your money in right away. But having kind of subscription systems where you pay 300 rupees per month, for example, like we do for Netflix or Spotify, makes it easy and accessible for consumers. And you kind of have a maintenance contract kind of fixed in to that as well. And I think modular technology is going to be one that is a circular economy trend that we all need to watch out for. Here are some innovations that give me lots of hope, and I hope they will do the same for you. The most effective way to balance sustainability with globalization and development is simply by adding a more human touch to it. Rather than simply looking at everything from a profitability lens, thinking about every aspect for potential profit leads to exploitation, chemically induced food, and maybe even unsustainable supply chain systems, for example. The most effective way to move forward is to use our current infrastructure system and build upon this. For example, we can use vertical farming, aquaponics, sustainable alternatives to single-use plastic, using the land that we already have to harvest abundant natural resources such as wind and sunlight for renewable energy. Another effective way, as difficult as it may sound, is governance. And I think that's what we are all here to do today. Setting net zero goals, caps in emissions, limits on carbon emissions, policies on travel, policies on plastic usage, design products with a cradle-to-cradle philosophy, policy recommendations to manage our waste better and to reduce our waste. All of this creates a better policy ecosystem to help build a place for behavioral economists, ecologists, researchers, and consumers alike to build a world for a more circular, just, and green world. Nationally, we need to look at stop mining, reducing carbon, but also reducing other pollutants. We need to start focusing on regenerative economies, creating community cooperatives and different kinds of economic systems that make it possible for people to thrive while the economy is to thrive as well. On a global scale, we must decarbonize our economies, shift financial flows, protect ecosystems, and adapt for the future. We must strive to achieve sustainable development goals. This is the time for us to come together to protect and to preserve the earth that sustains us all. Starting an enterprise with an earth-centered and people-centered approach was my solution of how I knew how to get involved. To make zero-waste education and living more easy and more accessible. I definitely don't think it's the entire solution to climate change, but it's just one way how I knew how to be part of the solution. We need to go beyond social media activism. We need to build resilience. We need to be part of the solution. We need to be doers. We all need to act whenever we can. Today, as we're gathered here for this conference on net zero, may we find solutions for a greener, cleaner, and more sustainable, just world.